Today we're diving into a topic that might just make you rethink your relationship with food. And no, we're not talking about dieting or the latest food trend. We're talking about where our food comes from. And I promise this isn't just going to be about the basics. It is about the bigger picture, the state of our food supply, and why we need to start growing our own food too. Hello and welcome to the video. If you get anything from this, make sure that you like and subscribe down below. Let's get into it. Now, just before we get into it, I just want to touch on a book that really opened up my eyes to all of this, which is Diddley Squat, Home to Roost, and it is by Jeremy Clarkson. If you haven't read it, Clarkson shares his experience of farming in the UK. He talks about the tough realities of running a farm and government regulations, the pressure from modern society, and how difficult it is to grow our own food in today's world. But I really do think it is more than that, because he highlights something important. It is the importance of knowing where our food actually comes from, and even more so, the value of growing our own. Now, just before we get deeper into this, I have already done a book review on this book, so you can go check that out, and I'll link that in the description below, as well as the video of me when I went to his pub for the first ever time. You'll find that in the description also. Let's get into it. The state of the food production. Let's face it, we live in a world where food is literally everywhere. Supermarkets are stocked, we can push a button and we can order a takeaway straight away. The processed foods as well on the shelves, we can get them at our fingertips just like that. That is the whole point of the food production these days though, is to make food more convenient to be able to purchase it, no matter the shelf life of it or what's inside of the packet. But behind all of this convenience, there is a major issue that many of us actually overlook, and it is how food is grown and produced today. We often forget that in the UK, and I suppose everywhere else, that our food doesn't just magically appear on the supermarket shelves. It is a result of a huge global supply chain, and a lot of it comes from abroad. But here's the thing, while we spend millions of pounds importing food from other countries, we're not investing enough into our own local food production. And that's where Clarkson's message in this book hits hard. If we don't start to pay attention to where our food comes from, then we're risking our food security and, more importantly, our health. Now let's talk about the way that our food is produced. Most of the food that we buy at the supermarkets is grown using industrial farming methods. That means pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, all of the chemicals that are designed to keep bugs off crops and stop weeds from growing in between the good stuff and boosting the yield as well. But here's the thing, these chemicals don't just disappear, they end up in our food and on our plate and ultimately into our bodies. Farmers, especially in large-scale operations, have to use these chemicals to meet demand because the pressure is on them to produce more and more, faster and cheaper. But it is a short-term fix. The long-term effect of chemicals on our health, our environment, and even the soil itself are worrying. And it's not just about the pesticides, it's also the fact that these farmers often don't prioritise the health of the soil. I'm talking about the big farmers here who have to do the high demand for the supermarkets in order to get the food on the shelves. They constantly deplete it of nutrients instead of nurturing the soil, and that can actually become a big issue. In contrast, when we grow our own food or support a small-scale local farmer who does this, we can avoid many of these chemicals going into the ground. It's about getting back into the basics and understanding the value of good, clean food that is grown in healthy, sustainable ways. The power of growing our own. Here's the good news. You don't have to be an expert farmer to start growing your own food. You don't need a massive plot of land either, or to be, green thumbed, or years of experience to know about gardening. All you need is the will to try, and trust me, it is worth it. I've grown so many things, especially in the past 12 months. We've grown tomatoes, carrots, potatoes, beetroot, you name it, we've grown it, and all in our very small garden. I get it, it might sound daunting, but there's something incredibly rewarding about planting a seed and watching it grow, and eventually harvesting it. Whether it's the herbs in a pot in your windowsill, or tomatoes in the back garden, or carrots in a raised bed, when you grow your own things, you have control over what goes into the food that you are producing. That will mean no chemicals and not worrying about where it came from, just real food grown by you. And if you think to yourself, but I don't know how to start, that is exactly the point. You don't have to know everything. Just start small. Head to your local garden centre, get some seeds, a watering can and maybe a pot or two, and give it a go. Start with something easy. All you need is compost and some potatoes, and you just need to put the potatoes in the compost in a pot, and it's good to go. You'll grow more potatoes from potatoes. I didn't know that either, but I did it. Learn as you go, and the more that you grow, the more confident you'll become, and you'll be amazed at how satisfying it actually is to be able to eat the food that you have grown yourself. Now I suppose it's time to mention the support of local farmers and sustainable practices. Now, growing your own food isn't just about what you can do at home, but also it's about supporting local farmers and small-scale producers who are working to grow food in more sustainable ways. These are the farmers who know the land and understand the seasons and care deeply about the quality of their produce. They're the ones who are battling against the grain, fighting back against the government regulations, and it's not exactly like they're making it easy either, because it is becoming more harder to grow food, and working to produce something good, not just something cheap. It's not always about the cost. And when we support these small-scale farmers, we're not just helping them, we're helping ourselves by building a more resilient and sustainable food system. We really need to stop relying so heavily on imports and start investing in our local food supply. Imagine if every town and city had a thriving local food network. It could change the way that we eat and even the way that we live. Everything I've explained in this video already, I challenge you today to take a step towards growing your own food. Whether it's simply picking up a few seeds, learning how to compost, or supporting your local farmer's market, you can make a difference. And it doesn't actually take a lot of effort to do so. And if you're not quite ready to start growing your own food, think about where you buy your food from. Start supporting local suppliers. Choose products that are free from unnecessary chemicals. And if you don't know where to find them, ask. We have the power to change the way that our food system works, but it starts with us. Today, let's get back to the basics, take responsibility for what is on our plate, and start growing our own food again. It's time to be brave, to take the first step and do something that's not only good for us, but for the world around us too. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope you are feeling inspired to get started on your own food growing journey. Let me know in the comments of what you're thinking of growing first. I would recommend potatoes and carrots. They seem pretty easy. Oh, and also check out the 2 videos that I mentioned in the description that I have already linked, which is this book, a book review of this in full, and also when I went to Jeremy Clarkson's pub for the first time. Oh, it was a corker. You won't want to miss it. Go check it out. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon. Cheers.